of the talking about 440 hertz
Yeah,
and
I'll
concept.
get you to
A lot of people
explain
don't
that.
quite get that. It's a hard concept to explain,
Yep.
so we'll come to that. But I've got a little story that kind of I'll share at the start. That kind of
Okay, we're all good. We're all live into the Facebook group. So I just have to change my view, which I've done right now, and then we are good to go. So hi to Facebook. Often we're getting quite a lot of people jumping on Facebook, but more people normally have booked in through the Zoom link and registered beforehand. So as we're seeing people jump on, which we're seeing people jump on now, so that's great. And so I want to shout out a massive welcome to Peter Dixon. And Peter is someone I have known. Peter, I was trying to think of this morning, and I really didn't want to go past 30 years because that might disclose either my age or your age. But I do know that we've at least known each other for a 30-year time period. So it has been
wow.
a very long time. And
Well, you were 17. I remember that.
yeah. Oh,
And
was I 17?
yeah, so if you just
What am I now?
tell us your age, and we can take
I
that.
think I'm 47 now. Yeah, so it's exactly 30 years. So there you go.
Wow. And I remember that because I remember thinking I met you at the Yarrahapney retreat thing where I was doing the music, and you were one of the kind of organizers or whatever. And I thought, well, this person is running this place so well. Um, she must be in her 30s, but she looks like she's a teenager.
There you go.
And I said, how old are you? And you said, I'm 17. I remember thinking, how does a 17-year-old run this kind of thing? Like we'd just been introduced, and you were going, "Oh, good, nice to meet you. Hey, no, put those there, put them over there. Yeah, so where are you from? Hey guys, make sure you move the truck to the back on that side there. Good. Yeah, you're doing the music. Cool. Hey guys, I said not there. You got to put that stuff
That,
goes over there."
that's not my recollection of the situation.
I remember
So
exactly what it was.
I think what it is very fair to say is that over those 30 years, we have had hours and hours of conversation about probably nearly every topic you can imagine under the sun. And I wanted to be able to take this opportunity to share just a couple of Peter's superpowers with you as part of the introduction. So, Peter will describe this more as he goes through, but he has been a musician for many years and performed in all over the world in all sorts of different scenarios with different size groups of people. And I have to say, if there's one person on the planet that knows how to work an audience, it's you. And there is something magical that happens when Pete stands up the front with his guitar in front of a room of however many people there might be, and it quite literally transports people to another place and time. And there is no question in my mind that that is your biggest superpower.
Mm.
And the other superpower might surprise you.
Yeah.
This superpower is an interpersonal superpower. So if you are someone who knows Peter personally, you will realize that when you're talking to him, it feels like that he doesn't think of anything else in the whole world. He's just talking to you. So he's very present when he speaks to you. And the reason over the years that that has really stood out in my mind is because not a lot of people are like that. A lot of people can be very distracted even in a one-on-one conversation with another person. So they were my two favorite superpowers. You
Interesting.
might
I did not know that one.
so you might like to share other ones as we go through. But today, Peter's going to be sharing a whole range of information and experiential stuff with us around music and frequency and how it affects our brain waves. And in fact, not only how it can help to heal us, but can help us to tap into our superhuman powers. So, without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to you and get out of the way. I am here, so call me if you need anything and I'll clarify with some questions, but it's all yours now, Pete. Over to you.
You're not going to drop out of the screen though, are you?
I won't. I'll just put myself small at the top of the screen. Or do you want me to stay
No.
like this?
Stay like that. Feels like a conversation then.
Okay, perfect.
Um, yeah, I liked what you said about the energy and vibrations, because today's not about a singing performance or talking about how music generally can help our moods. I'm looking specifically at the vibrations of sound and how they impact us. And you've seen images or clips or heard people talk about people such high shrill voice notes that the cups and glasses are broken. You've heard about that, I'm sure. And you've also probably been to concerts where you've been close to the big bass subwoofer speakers and you've felt the and lots of scientific experiments have been done where if sounds are a certain frequency and a vibration and a cycle, um, a wave cycle, they can actually harm your brain and physically harm your body. And so I guess, like all things, food, music, sound, there's good and bad things. And I've discovered and stumbled across some of the great use and benefits of sound waves and vibrations that actually physically and physiologically can shape your mood. People talk often about physical healing. I don't kind of go into that realm, but the area of emotional healing is quite profound. Emotional healing and feeling peace and calm, and a couple of other interesting things. So that's a little bit of what we're going to talk about today. And I thought I'd share a little story that really got me into this. It was the early 90s, I guess. And that is where this kind of story began. But in the late 90s, I came across in my drawer a list of goals that I'd written out. And there was, I think, 10 things that I'd written. I want to have a music shop, a recording studio. For some reason, one of them was I want to tour Japan. There was a list of these 10 things. And I must have found it around 97, maybe 96 something. And I looked at them and every single one of those things had come true. I'm not too sure whether I'd wanted all of them to come true. And if I'd thought about it a bit more, maybe I would have picked different goals. But I thought, wow, every one of those came true. I wonder if it's just because I thought about it and wrote it down, because a lot of people talk about, the secret. And yeah, I do think if you're really focused on stuff, things can happen. But I hadn't really thought about it since I'd written the goals and, like in the early 90s. And so I was kind of surprised that I hadn't really spent time thinking about these things, but they'd come true anyway. And this is where I kind of was starting to think, well, why did that happen? A couple of years later, probably early 2000s, I found another list of goals that I must have written in the mid-90s, and none of those had come true. So I looked at these two bits of paper that were still in my drawer, and I thought, why did one lot come true and one not? So I got out my old school wall calendar, the big ones on the wall, and I went back through the early 90s, and I discovered I'd done this recording session with someone where they wanted me to put very soothing music behind their guided meditation. This lady was doing lots of research with women who were suffering emotional trauma from having gone through breast cancer. And so she was working on how to use music and guided meditation to help them in their recovery process, particularly with emotions. And anyway, I remembered a specific moment where I had been mixing the music only. And I remember waking up about 2 or 3 hours later, mixing my own music had put me into such a calm state that I'd fallen asleep on the mixing desk.
I'm
And
a very visual person, so I'm literally seeing your face like this.
it was embarrassing. I had little markers from the volume controls all along the side of my face, drooling down into the mixing console. And I thought, at the time, I thought, wow, this music is powerful. This is very calming, very relaxing. So anyway, I looked at the date on my goals list, the first one that had come true, and it was that exact month that I'd written these goals. Now, I looked later at the dates of the other one. There'd been nothing special going on with music, so the correlation there. So I thought maybe I'd spent this intense 3 months recording this project, listening to this kind of music, and on top of that, I'd put in these goals. And so, to cut a long story short, I've done experiments in the last 20 years now, since the early 2000s, where I have I've analysed the kind of music I did, and I can probably play a little bit in the background actually of the exact music, um, just to give you a bit of a sample idea. Um,
So can I just clarify? Does it make you feel different when you play different music physically?
yeah, can you just hear that?
Yep, I can hear it.
It's just very flowing kind of music. Um, so sorry, yes, it does make you feel different as you're playing it. But what I discovered in all the research of it was that it's a specific kind of music that allows your dreams and goals and hopes to be manifested to hit super deep and kind of become true and manifest because of this bed of music. So I often used to run seminars where I'd say, have your goals and dreams come true by thinking, writing, and saying out loud, but by also adding the missing ingredient. And I wouldn't tell anybody till they came to the thing. So I'd say to people, right, we're going to dream and vision cast and think about it. And then we're going to write down our dreams, and then we're like your goal setting, and then we're going to talk about it to our friends, and we're going to say it out loud verbally. Your brain needs to hear it from your voice. And then the missing secret ingredient, which I'm sharing with your audience today, was this music. And the music has to be a certain wave file or wave cycle, and it has to not have drums. Cannot have melody. It has to be a certain key, and so it was fascinating to stumble across this.
You're going to share with us why those characteristics need to be in place, like what it actually does
Yeah.
to your brain.
Well, yeah, I'm not a scientist. I'm not making any big claims, but for my life, from running heaps of seminars and getting emails from people saying they've tried it and it worked, that's all I can share.
Yeah, lived
Um,
experience, which is beautiful.
yeah,
That's exactly what we're after.
and
Yeah.
and there is science there as well, and definitely I'm going to share some of those things today, um, and I think what actually happens is when your brain waves are in a certain state, the information you put into your brain is more likely to have an impact on your brain thinking about it and therefore manifesting it if that music, those sound waves are the right waves and have got you in that state. So the music, the sound waves, that's what gets you into that state. I'm sure there's other ways you can do it.
Yeah. But
Um,
this is what opens you, basically, is what.
yeah, it's like we plant the seed in a garden, but the garden has to be ready. And these sounds and frequencies and vibrations get the mind ready. So what I would say to people in the seminars, you think it, you write it, and you say it, and all the time you're doing those three things, which is what I was doing unknowingly in the studio for those 3 months. Because when you're mixing, sometimes you've got to wait for things to run off and format and be saved to the master. So I'd sit there with my notepad writing all my goals down that I wanted to achieve. And I didn't realize that I was doing it in the environment while the music was playing underneath. So it's an important thing that you've made me remember. You think it, you write it, you say it to your friends, and every single time you put on this kind of music that is creating your mind to be in the right space.
Mm.
It's so important. Like I've done, if you do the think it, write it, say it without the music, it doesn't work. But every single time, and I've done it probably 5 or 6 times since then, every single time I've done it with the music, think it, write it, say it. I've had 2 number 1 hits on iTunes using this method. Purely spent about 2 months thinking, writing, saying, listening to the music. And then I forgot about it. 2 years later, bang.
If you think about it, it makes sense logically, because if you think about our senses, we're multi-sensory humans, and if we are leaving out one of our major senses, which is hearing and sound and experiencing, if we're leaving that out of a process, then how can it be as effective
Yeah.
as if we were to tap into it and utilize it? So it does make a lot of sense. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm sure there's other ways that people can get into this state. So I wanted to just quickly share with you. There's plenty of kind of brain waves that people talk about, but there's four that I'll kind of share with you. And excuse my messy writing, but there's the beta or beta. There's the alpha. You've heard people say alpha brain waves and beta brain waves and stuff.
Yeah, and
The,
levels of consciousness.
yep,
Because that's what meditation does as well, is it helps you go through
exactly.
those layers of consciousness.
Yep, exactly. And I think the interesting thing is that the meditation can get you to these places, but because you're meditating, you're not inputting the other information. You're almost encouraged with meditation to let that other stuff go. Whereas
Mm.
this is putting you into that state of mind without you even knowing, because the music's playing quietly in the background, and then you're adding all that information consciously while this subconscious thing's happening, and it just digs those seeds into exactly the right depth they need to go for those goals and dreams to actually come true and be manifested in reality. So the beta or beta waves are quite fast. That's when we're awake, and we're kind of living our life and doing stuff. We then can get to our alpha waves, which are similar, but they're just a little less kind of getting into it. It's a bit more relaxed. So you might have finished your busy day with your beta waves, your beta waves. At the end of the day, you're kind of sitting at home, a bit more
Watching Netflix. Is that alpha?
watching Netflix. That's going to be your alpha, yeah.
Okay.
And then you've got your theta or theta, which are kind of slowing down, but there's some extra kind of things happening. It's not a heartbeat, but every now and again there's a bit of that going on. So this is relaxed. Can you see that? Boy, my
Yep.
writing's
Yeah.
bad. I'm not used to writing across waves. Our theta waves are kind of they're deep. You probably part of your brain's a bit of sleep, but another part of it's awake, and this is your problem solving kind of zone.
In like an intuitive problem solving zone
Yep.
rather than a cognitively awake problem solving zone.
Exactly. I'm glad you've said that, because that is exactly it. And so your delta is like this. That's deep sleep. So guess which one when I did some study, guess which frequencies and sound waves and vibrations I was using on my recording? This one. Just unknowingly. And my job was to put a bed of music under her guided meditation. So my natural intuition just guided me on the keyboard to play this kind of music. So I was listening to this kind of music, and then in the hours of mixing and whatever, I had my notepad writing down these goals as a separate thing. So
But I
that,
think let me just add there,
yeah,
the fact that you were tapped in and tuned on and connected to your own intuition is what led you to choose that kind of music in the first place. And I
yeah,
think that's really important, because if you're not even in the space where you're listening to your own body and what the feedback is that you're getting from your body, then you're not even going to be aligned to make that decision in the first place.
exactly. You're not going to stumble across it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm not going to unpack it now, but I'd been through some serious stuff at the end of the 80s, and early 90s was in recovery from some treatment I'd had. And so I'd been already exploring meditation and mindfulness to help calm my mind. So I was fully down a certain path of study, and that led me to kind of, it's like people think it's intuitive, but sometimes it's because you've been focused on something that brings you into the right place that you need to be. So
I'll
that's,
just let you know, a few people are saying how much they're loving and enjoying this.
oh,
And
good.
AJ just shared that, I don't know if you've heard of this, Pete, but she has a Muse, which is a headset that you can put on
Right.
whilst you're actually going through the meditation process.
Yes.
And the Muse measures the frequency and the level that she's in the meditation process, and it gives her that feedback in the form of
Right.
information. Yeah, so it's actually it's just like Um, it's a basic headset. That's all it is.
Wow.
But it measures all that activity. And we've had a request here saying, can he play a little snippet of the music again? It was quick, but
Yes.
we want to experience it.
Oh, sure. Now, I play this every night to my little girls as they go to sleep. And it can I give it a little plug? It's available on iTunes.
Plug away. Yeah.
It's called, I'll hold it up close to the screen. It's called Sleep Baby Sleep, Peter Dixon on iTunes. And I'll go in. It's just. That's it. So we're nodding off now.
Like, no more, AJ, or I'll go to sleep. Sorry.
Oh, now why is it? It's hang on. Just got to put the oscillator back on. So yeah, I play that to the girls every night. I've worked out their special notes, which I'm going to talk about later, because there are tailor-made frequencies for each of us that are quite different to each other, and that's what I've been exploring right in the last 6 months. So I'll share a bit more about that later. And that kind of music, in fact, that track right there is one of the songs I was using back in the early 90s. So you can put that kind of, in fact, it just can be played really, really quietly. You've got to get it at the right volume as well. It's important. There's a few key things you must make sure, and don't have to listen to my music. There's plenty of music out there that's just flowing. It's the right frequency, the right cycles, the right sound waves. It's not too involved. Don't have melodies going on. Don't have beats and percussion. There are types of beats you can use as well. That's a whole other conversation. We can go there another time.
Just quickly, super quickly,
Yep.
someone's just saying they want to play this in a toxic meeting at work.
It's incredible. Just I will sometimes have it in my pocket on my phone, just turn down really quietly, and I just chat to people, and that you'd be amazed how calm the conversations are. It true, and then you suddenly stop it, and you'll feel like, oh, hang on, something really nice that was made my brain feel really good is gone. So, in fact, I have it on really quiet in the girls' bedroom, like all night when they go to sleep. And they go to
Beautiful.
sleep. Okay, so I wanted to unpack a little bit more about what sound frequencies are. So they're called, so let's look at, um, oh, sorry. They're called hertz. I don't know if you've heard about that or not. I'm not going to go into the detail of the name. I think it's a person's name that discovered this.
And it's
And
not the car rental company, just to
no,
clarify.
it's not the car rental company, but they are welcome to sponsor me if they like. And if you have 1 second, as in, boy, this is very bad writing, sorry.
All right, we can see it.
Not as in, do you have a second, but the number of waves that a sound vibration emits in a second gives you the number of the hertz. So when we listen to, you've heard people say concert pitch, let's tune our orchestra to concert pitch. We're going to use A440. So some of you may have heard of that term before. So 440 just simply means, because sound is a wave, it pushes through the air, and it can be measured. You can measure the cycle of the wave, and in a second, 440 gives a sound that is these cycling 440 times in a second. Now that sounds a little bit theoretical, but the sound wave, and I'm going to demonstrate to you now on an oscillator. Do you remember those things they would have had in the science labs in the? You're too
It's
young to remember.
oscillators.
But, they were square little box cubes with a green screen, and you'd see the sound waves go across. You can get them on apps now. So a sound frequency, the vibration, the wave, makes a sound to our ears. Okay? If a vibration is big like this, you can't hear it. Humans cannot hear, I think, kind of below about 80.
Mm.
About 40 to 60, I think it is. Big sound waves. The Earth, on its rotation, makes a sound wave, a vibration, which is around 7 to 10. It's actually shifted. It's a different measurement now. This is not woo woo. This is science. It creates a vibration. NASA or whatever has registered it. It has shifted and changed. This sound, which I'm going to play for you right now, is 440 cycles per second. Here it is. Can you hear that on there? And you can just see that's the wave file there. Now, if I speed it up, sorry, if I slow it down, you can hear it going lower. It's as loud as I can get it, unfortunately.
Yeah, you can just hear it.
Just hear it. And if I go higher,
That sounds like alien.
yeah. And if I go up and down, see down low, you can't hear it. The Earth kicks in around 8 or 10. I can't even get it to stop on it. You definitely can't hear it. And you can start hearing about 130. You can actually start hearing it about 60.
And different humans are at different frequencies themselves, so therefore could hear at either lower
That's right.
frequencies
Yeah.
than other
They
people.
use these sounds in hearing tests. So the higher it is, often it'll get so high you can't hear it as well. So we're in a range where we can pretty much. Whoops, sorry, it's going crazy. We're in a range where we kind of talk and listen and hear music that's between, I guess, 80 and you know 600, something like that. So when musicians, but that's just a sound. That's just that note going woo. What music? And this is fascinating. Why do musicians call 440 an A note? Do you know?
No, I need you to do that.
It's just because you can then everyone can tune to that note.
So it's a symbol. It's purely a symbol.
Yeah, we've just called it A. It's not actually A. It's just we've decided to call when it's 440 cycles a second. It makes this sound. Hey guys, let's all call it A. So when we tune up our instruments, we're all going to have a reference point. So it's just simply a reference point.
It's like a code. A is just a code for a number.
Yeah. Now our notes are A in a scale are just 7 notes: A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So we've got our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then we come to the A again at the top, which is 8, and that's just an octave. And we know this as do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. You've heard that on, what is it? What's that famous movie?
Sound of Music.
Sound of Music. So we just go A, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. There's 12 notes in a scale because we've got sharps and flats in between these as well in our Western tuning. The Indian tuning and some of the Eastern tunings, the Asian tunings are very different to that. But they're all just a sound that is just going from high just down. There's no magic in the name you give it. It's simply a vibration that when our ears hear it gives a sound. And we determine what we're going to call that particular pitch. So here's the interesting thing, Michelle. We haven't always agreed that 440 is the A. And in Europe in the late 1800s, different people said, no, we're going to call our A 413. And people elsewhere, no, ours is 453, sorry. So orchestras that travelled through Europe when playing with other musicians, had to ask the conductor, what do you choose yours to? And they had these tuning forks that they would go, our A is this. Now, in the new age kind of community that does explore sound waves a lot, they say there's a special kind of vibration that happens at 432 hertz. And they will spend, and I've played lots of gigs in this community and love it. It's a fabulous community of
Spiritual
people
community,
and
let's just say
music
it
and
broadly. Yeah.
very open to this kind of thing. And so I have to tune my guitar. So I've got a special tuner that will tune my A to 432. Now, my theory on this is that we are all so different. So you've got to find out really the A, if we're going to call it a pitch, that resonates with your vocal cords and your sound in your mind. So I approach it two ways. If I'm with a community of people, I generally tune to 440 because that's what our ears are used to in the Western world. Since about 1950, after the Second World War, everyone kind of settled on 440 as the main pitch. That was mainly because people were buying and selling instruments all around the world. And so they had to go, well, we're making these instruments in America and we choose 440. So you guys are just going to have 440 as well if you want our guitars or our pianos or whatever. So they would just tune that 440 pitch and they'd call it A. So everyone kind of had to fall into line basically because of economic reasons. So I don't view there being any kind of evil reasons for 440. I don't really think of some special thing about 432. What I think special is when a community and a group decides what's their resonant
It
sound.
makes me think of a comparison to that, which is when you're speaking from stage, right? If you're speaking from stage, you're sharing a message and you want that message to resonate with people. And what you do is you make sure you do your homework so you know who is sitting in that audience. And that determines whether you pitch your message here, here, or here.
Yeah,
So it's a bit of a similar thing in terms of wanting to create resonance
exactly.
with a community around you. So my
Yeah.
question is, when communities are more coherent in their resonance, are they more peaceful?
Yes. Studies have shown that when so this is the two things I was just going to quickly say. I'll just say it before I launch into that because
Yeah.
that's a really good thing I'm glad you've raised. When you address a community, gather people, for example, if I'm playing to mainly a group of women and it's a sing-along kind of situation, I will use the key of E. It's a little bit higher. It feels more comfortable, generally speaking. This is just generalizing. If I'm playing for just men or mainly men, I'll choose the key of C because it's a little bit lower. If there's an equal number of people, I'll change the key to D because that's kind of in the middle, C, D, E, and most people feel comfortable with that. So what happens with groups is we're all a bit different, but when we start to have the person at the front sharing the vibration, we all start to come onto the one thing. And they've done studies that when people have been listening to powerful speeches like the one about Kennedy talking about going to the moon and, don't ask what America can do for you, ask what you can do for America. They've done studies of that with people watching that now with fMRI scanners, and people's brainwaves they all come into alignment. I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it. It's just powerful. So when you have this music playing to a group of people that feel comfortable with this presenter and the vibrations of sound, we come into this oneness that is truly beautiful to experience. But that oneness has to be guided by certain frequencies, because if you get the wrong frequencies, you're going to find your audience just go, whoa, I'm just not getting it here. And so anyway, so that's a really good thing to highlight, and I'm glad you raised that because groups do come into alignment with this kind of
And I
concept.
think it is also why, just in reflecting on what you're talking about, it's also why we've been talking a lot about our energy at a personal level and the impact that we have on other people around you across the whole summit. But it's also why sometimes you just meet someone and you literally know they're on the same frequency that as you,
Yeah.
or at least a compatible frequency to
Yeah.
what you are. And sometimes you meet other people and you're repelled by those people.
Yeah.
And I think honestly the answer is that you're quite literally not on the same planet.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree 100%. And that brings me to my kind of new focus that I'm doing. I feel like, and you were kind enough to give me a compliment before about where you were saying that I kind of do enjoy getting an audience into a place of oneness. We all go somewhere together and have a really uplifting time. Um, what I've discovered is when you're talking to individuals, you have to find out with sound to benefit your interaction with them and for them to gain benefit, you have to find the exact tailor made custom sound notes that fit their voice. So, for example, if I was going to do a session with you, and I run a 2 hour session, if people want to chat to me about one on one, I call them the seven sacred sounds, and they're individual sounds. And I would spend time with you finding out. I usually work in assuming that A is 440. As humans, we're kind of used to that sound. But I did about 7 sessions in Adelaide recently, one on one. In this is before we were kind of locked down, and it was incredible. One guy had this really deep voice, and he would just keep going to the 432. He just wouldn't. I could not get him to 440. So I did his whole. Once I've established the A note, I can then work out my other 7 notes from that. And sometimes they're up and down and they move around. But I will, if the person definitely needs to find their own 440, their own A, I will help them do that. But generally speaking, I would sit with you, I'd work off the A sound, I'd play the note, for example, I'd get my guitar, which I just happen to have here, and we'd go, and I'd say, Michelle, can you sing that easily? La la la,
La la la.
la la la. And then I'd go, okay, well, let's just go up the scale a bit. And I'd find notes. Not just the major 7 notes of the scale, I'd find all the little notes of the 12 notes that you resonate with, can sing most comfortably with, and we would make a chart that then would have the frequency number, name of the note, if it was 440, or I'd put yours is 432. I'd then give you the name of each note matching that, and I'd give you the frequency number. So you could literally just sit there with one of these apps, find the frequency number, and just do your 7 notes. So, for example, my 7 notes are back down, and then here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 8 to finish. And I love you more than you know. And then I write songs. I've got a whole album out of 7 songs that are based around my 7 sacred notes, I call them, that feel really comfortable for me to sing. And as I share those, because I'm sending those vibrations, people pick up on that. And I'm lucky it's in the key of D in 440, and interestingly, D is often the best key for men and women to join in. So that's a little bit about that.
Is your is what you're suggesting, by the way, people are just saying they love it, they've got goosies all over, etc., just so that you know what the feedback is.
Oh, that's good, because I can't see what people are.
Yeah.
Right.
But is your suggestion that, and maybe I'm preempting what you're about to say, but is your suggestion that the more we can tap into those personal individual frequencies and sacred sounds, then the more healing we can gain as a result of that? Is that right?
Exactly. In fact, I would say that the 2 greatest reasons I'm involved with this is because of the personal emotional healing it brings in me. And of course, if we look after our own instrument and heal ourselves emotionally, we connect better with other people. So our community is enhanced by it as well. and because of what it has given me in a sense of abundance as well. If you're writing down, think it, write it, goals, and putting this bed of music underneath, there's so many beautiful things have happened to me. You know, my own personal situation where because of this stuff I talked about that had happened many, many years ago, I was unable to have kids. Can I be open a bit about this? I don't know.
Be
But
open as you
uh,
like, whatever you're comfortable with.
I had to put some of my friends away in the frozen
In a
back
freezer.
in the freezer, and I was told that I was never going to be able to have kids unless I adopted kids, which is wonderful. I thought about that, but I wrote down. I'm getting emotional. I wrote down one of my goals was to have a couple of kids. You know that I do. Will I show a picture?
Please do. Why not? They're beautiful girls.
I've got so many thousands of them on here.
And they're literal blessings, aren't they? They're gorgeous.
Sorry, everyone.
Don't apologize. You're being human.
Yeah. I've been doing lots of Zoom lessons
And
lately.
by the way, your emotion has created an awful lot of love hearts on the feed. Oh, there they are. They're beautiful.
So they came about because I dreamt it, wrote it down, talked about it, and I wrote music for it.
Mm.
Anyway, let's.
And you allowed yourself to be the vessel, and that's what we were talking about earlier. I think that if there's one thing I know about humans, there's an awful lot of resistance that we show around us to living our best lives. We try and stuff it up for ourselves over and over and over again by doing a series of things or not doing things or repeating these habits that we've had over the past without being able to step aside and use the purity of us as a vessel and allow the downloads and the emotion and the frequency and the sound to not only just heal us, but to heal the collective consciousness. And I think one of the things that I'm so passionate about at the moment, and one of the reasons we decided to do the Superhuman Summit, was that we want to be able to contribute in whatever way we can to the love ripples going out through the universe. And if that in our way, shape, and form is about doing a Superhuman Summit, so be it. Other people will do it in other ways. But I think finding the way that you're passionate about, tapping in, getting out of the way, and allowing spirit to do its work is what it's all about.
Yeah, and I love how you even just said ripples. It again alluding to it's all about the vibrations. And look, I have a lot of people that do these courses with me that are atheists, agnostics. You're tapping into a vibration that you don't have to define. You just find the notes, the resonance, the hertz, the frequencies that resonate with you and community, and notice the love, notice the elevation of love, the elevation of abundance, the elevation of good things starting to happen. Don't label it. You don't have to label it.
But I think it's also interesting when you look at people like Bruce Lipton as an example. The three that are really leading the way is Bruce Lipton, Joe Dispenza, and Greg Braden. And when you look at those three authors at the moment, they are the ones that describe the science behind a spiritual experience. And the reason that's so important is because it is connecting people. It's not dividing people. People
Yes,
who would consider themselves atheists are happy to read those guys' books
exactly.
because they're all scientists. But
Exactly.
they're talking about how science creates spirituality. So I'm interested in going back to this discussion in and around sound and frequency and healing. Is it safe to assume that the healing that we're talking about is about shifting our DNA?
Oh, wow.
Or is that a long bow?
Look, I guess what the way I've approached it is to go, what can I experience, feel, and see change in my life, and then I don't label it. I would, I have in my life literally from the atheist spectrum to the incredibly new age spectrum and everything in between. My friends and contacts fit on that spectrum, and so I've kind of learned to go, what is the one thing that we all kind of connect with? And it's the feeling of cohesion, it's the feeling of love, it's the feeling of stuff. And you know what? Maybe I, over a time period, that does change our DNA. I guess I'm saying I'm definitely not writing that out of the picture. I'm just saying that I've analyzed to death all the frequencies, sound waves, numbers, and kilohertz, and then I've gone. Now I'm just going to play the sounds. In fact, when I came over my own personal seven sacred notes, I tuned the guitar not to 440. I'd actually just tuned it to what sounded good to me, and then that really resonated with me. And it's not 440, and I can't even tell you exactly what it is, but I tune it to that note because I've written the number down. I know what the frequency number is.
But just to let you
And
know,
I'm not even going to explore what it is, but I generally, when I play it to a group, I tune it to 440, and it still works magically because it's very close to it.
just to let you know, you've got about 5 minutes, and there's a few people
Okay.
that want to ask questions.
Oh,
So,
okay.
do you want to deal with questions now, or did you want to add something else before we go to questions? How are you
Can I
feeling?
just do a quick thing? I
Please do.
wanted, and I'll
Yeah.
just be quick. In the ancient wisdom of India and the Eastern religions, they talk about chakras, and I won't go through them, but ironically or interestingly, there are seven pretty much main ones that they talk about. I won't write it down. We've got our root chakra, our sacral chakra, solar plexus, our heart, our throat. They call one up here on the for the
Brown.
mind, the third eye, and then you've got the crown above. And in as time has gone by and they've discovered sounds, people have written frequency numbers to match each of those chakras. For example, the root chakra is 396 cycles. I'll just say them quickly. I might just quickly write them. The root chakra is 396 because some people might want to write them down to
Yeah, there
explore.
will be some people that will want to write them down.
417. So that's the root chakra.
Do you happen to have this in a document that we could drop into the group afterwards?
No, I don't. But maybe they could watch this back or something and write it down. All right, and I'm happy for people to contact me privately as well.
Okay, cool.
417 is our sacral. And look, it's easy to research chakras anyway. 528 is our solar plexus. 639 is our heart. And the reason I'm mentioning this, I'll tell you in a second. 741 is our throat. 852 is our third eye. And our crown is 963. Now, I want to say something interesting here. A lot of people have said, okay, well, this is a C note. And you'll go to places where people are chanting mindfulness, doing sacred sounds and stuff. And they'll say, let's do our root chakra, and they'll play a C and everyone sings along. I went and did some research. In 440, it's not a C. And I thought, what? How come no one's discovered that before? They're claiming the whole scale's 440, but it's not C. I researched it, and some people say it's a G. Well, guess what? That's close, but it's actually, when you actually get the oscillator out, it's actually 392. So all the stuff that people are saying, I'm realizing is slightly inaccurate. So the point is not to go for this must be 432 and it must be 396, because it's actually not. The G in 440 is 392, but everywhere you look, you will see 396. I'm thinking, am I the only person in the world that's discovered that? No, of course not. I'm sure there's plenty of other people. But the point that hit me with that is that you need to have custom for your own voices to find what works for you. You might be 382. You might be 399. So I find out what's you, and then collectively, it doesn't matter if you go 396 and everyone sings into it, because we all come in together anyway. We're all like this. The person sings at the front or does the sound healing or plays the notes, and we all come in together, and we lift or fall as we need to come together as one. And that's the beauty of it. You choose something, come together as a community, use that vibration. Or in your personal private time, you find out what your 7 or 8 special notes are and use that in your private meditation, private mindfulness to enhance your own personal life. There we go.
Look, there's so many questions I want to ask you, but I don't want to take over everyone else's question time. So I'm going to go through the questions that other people have submitted. If you can answer those, what is becoming increasingly quickly, that would be great. So first question, easy one. What other resources can you recommend similar to yours?
Wow. I'm not. I've not actually found people doing sound frequency hertz, finding people's own personal ones. But if you're wanting to find about collectively, just simply type into Google kilohertz, hertz, sound frequencies, chakra, healing tones, and there's an abundance of information out there. So if you're wanting to find out about that, what I'm talking about, the group kind of coming together, there's plenty of, this has kind of become a bit of a consensus view, but there's plenty of information out there.
Okay, cool.
But keep in mind that it's just sound, it's just vibration. So imagine here's our low vibration, it's getting higher and higher and higher, and it starts off low and it's getting higher and higher and higher and higher. At some point, you might resonate in here, others might resonate here, others down here. But because we're human, we're all in this ballpark. So I can go ballpark, everybody, or find you specifically. I've found lots of information about the ballpark. I can't find anyone talking about the individual one-on-one finding someone's special notes.
Obviously, that's one of your many unique contributions. So this person's saying, basically they're saying music that can keep them awake, please, instead of allowing them to nan and up.
Back in Black, AC/DC.
Every step of the way. Crazy akadaka.
If ever I feel depressed, down, melancholy, anxious, I put on Back in Black, AC/DC, and I guarantee within 18 bars, you're just happy again.
All right. And
it's a good question because
similar but different. What's some music that could flick us from being sad to happy?
So it's definitely got to be major key, lively, happy beats. Don't confuse your brain by having, there's lots of songs out there that have happy beats and melancholy lyrics. Don't confuse your brain. Your brain hates that. And don't be listening to music that's got melancholy lyrics and melancholy music in minor keys. Keep it happy. What's that great George Harrison song, Sunshine one? And that song, Happy.
For that question.
But yeah, so yeah.
What we might invite you to do, Pete, you're inside the SuperHuman Summit group. If you don't mind just dropping a post in there and maybe linking to a couple of interesting of either your resources or other people's resources is fine, where people can follow up a little bit more. That would be fantastic in the next couple of days or so. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I feel like we're not finished, but whether or not we're finished, we have to be finished, if that makes sense.
I get it. I understand.
So I just want to say
one last quick thing before we go. One quick thing. Yep. Each of these that we mentioned, these frequencies, you can find, and I had listed them, you can find what the benefits will come from. Have I got 1 second just to quickly read you the 7 quick benefits?
Yep.
Because it's just something that'll just put a nice little kind of top on this. Sorry about this. It was right.
Here comes the sun, George Harrison.
Here comes the sun. Yeah,
that's the one.
Listen to that every day, and you will be fine. So, for example, just to quickly close, for example, if you're listening to your chakras, the 396 liberates you of fear and guilt. The next one facilitates change. That's here. The next one repairs DNA, which is what you were talking about. The next one is about healing relationships. The next one is about awakens intuition. The next one is attracts your soul tribe, bringing community together. And the last one, the crown chakra, is about connecting with light and spirit. So maybe people can play that back, and I'll quickly hold it up if people want to kind of get a bit of a. Where I've put the numbers beside it, it's got the kilohertz, and
And
it's
AJ's getting it in the feed, so that's
awesome.
good.
It's
But
got
as
the
Peter's
kilohertz,
saying, don't be afraid to go ahead and Google. There is numerous amounts of
beautiful stuff.
information to do with chakras and frequencies and um, connected things. I so want to ask you 20 million other things, but that's for another time. So thank you for being so gracious, so funny, and full of insight. We appreciate that. I don't think there's one person on here that wasn't crying with you when you had some tears. And I just want to thank you so much for being an incredible human being and being willing to share not just your knowledge, but your experience and insight. And I think that's in a very defined space that a lot of people don't know about. So I want to say a massive thank you for that.
Thank you, Michelle. Thanks for all you guys are doing too. It's just been incredible.
So
With
just
what
to wrap
to
up, when
do now and
people do want
elsewhere.
to contact you, Pete, what's the best way for them to contact you?
The best way is, oh wow, Facebook Messenger.
Facebook Messenger. In fact, that's the only way. If you don't know Pete, he won't answer his phone, he won't answer his text, but he will answer Facebook Messenger.
Yeah. So you
Fantastic.
can find me, Peter Dixon on Facebook, and I also do a lot of my other kind of mindful work as Premananda, and you can find me on
So
those.
Pramananda, AJ, if you can just drop that in. Pramananda is Peter's spiritual name. Okay,
Uh,
beautiful. Thank you so much. And if you are online and would like to jump on again with us in about 5 or 10 minutes, we have Kavi Arasu, and he is talking about conversations that change your world. And I'm looking forward to that. And that this conversation was certainly a conversation that's changed our world. So thanks again, Peter. Appreciate your time.
Thank you very much. See you
Okay.
guys.
See ya.